بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وعن علي رضي الله عنه قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: إذا كانت لك 100 درهم وحال عليها الحول ففيها 5 دراهم، وليس عليك شيء حتى يكون لك 20 دينارا وحال عليها الحول ففيها نصف دينار، فما زال فبحساب ذلك، وليس في مال زكاة حتى يحول عليه الحول. رواه أبو داود وهو حسن وقد اختلف في رفعه. So this is a hadith narrated by Ali radiallahu anhu. Some scholars said that it was a statement made by Ali, and some people say that it is attributed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Regardless, even if Ali alayhi ridwanullah said it, it is still considered marfu' hukm marfu', meaning attributed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Why? Because it is related to the tashri'ah, and Ali wouldn't say something that he wasn't certain it is related to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the hadith talks about two things: the nisab and the hawl. So these are some of the contingencies of the requirement of the zakat. Number one, the nisab, which is the minimum, the bare minimum amount of money you have to have in order to be required to pay zakat. So the nisab is the threshold, basically, that qualifies you to pay zakat. And he says that if you own 200 dirham, and it lasts for an entire annual, a year, a lunar year, then you pay 5 dirham. So this is basically the nisab. The threshold is only 200 dirham. And the dirham is what they used to pay in fidda. So that was silver, and what we call waraq. فابعثوا أحدكم بورقكم هذه إلى المدينة فلينظر أيها أزكى طعاما. So they used to call it الرقة or الورق. So that was silver. And the dirham, according to the majority of scholars, Jumhur al-Ulama, is equal to 2.975 grams of silver. Who has his calculator up? So times 200, that's 595 dirham. And the dirham of fidda the gram of fidda is approximately how much? It's less than $1 these days. It's like $0.6. So if you do the math, it is roughly something between 300 to 400 dirhams. Dollars. So if you own $400, that is zakatable. So you have to pay zakat on it. If you own it for an entire year. Does that make sense? So that's the first opinion, basing the nisab on silver. It's clear? The Ahnaf, they said the dirham is a little bit more, it's 3.125 grams of fidda. So that takes it over 600 grams, a little bit. It's still within the range. The other opinion, who based the nisab on gold and not on the fidda, and that's a little bit more. قال وليس عليك شيء حتى يكون لك 20 دينارا. Or you have have to own 20 dinar. And the dinar was the currency in gold. And each dinar is equal, anyone knows? No one has bought his wife, what you call it, lira al-dhahab. Lira al-dhahab, that's what they mean. So it's 4.25 grams of gold. And the gold is how much these days? This is the time to buy the coins, in gold. This is, they say the signature of inflation of what? Is gold and real estate. So when there is inflation, this is what you do. You buy the gold, you store it, you hold it, and you buy real estate. So this is why it goes up with inflation. So no one is following the rules. So the gram of gold is these days approximately $50. So you do the math, times 20, how much is that?
212. Times 4.25, you said, right?
Right.
50 times 4.25, 212.5.
Okay, so that puts it in the neighborhood of the silver, something like that. So, and the Prophet ﷺ, or Ali, is saying, each one, if you own 200 dirhams, you pay how much? 5 dirhams. That puts it to 2.5%. And with the gold, if you own 20 dinar, and the dinar is what, by the way, they call the mithqal, the weight unit, basically, is you pay half a dinar, so that makes it how much? 2.5% again. So this is the currency. And anything above that, you make the math, the calculation. And there is no zakat on any monetary or any currency or any wealth unless you own it for an entire annual, basically. So here's the question. So they said, do you have to own that amount for an entire year? Or is what is considered the beginning of the year or the end of the year, and you don't account for the fluctuations up and down in the middle? So the Jumhur, they said you have to own it for an entire year. For someone to be sufficient, basically, and ghani, to have the wealth, this is how much, the Islam considers you wealthy if you own that much. A lot of people think that zakah is mandatory if you own like $1 million or you're driving a Lamborghini. So most people actually are required to pay the zakah. So, and so in the dhahab, you made a mistake now. So it has to be 85 grams of dhahab times 50. That's $4,000 for 4,200 basically, right? So we were talking about the dinar, and the dinar is we skipped a step there. So 85 grams of gold or 585 grams of silver. So the cautious thing is to take the silver nisab. So that would be the safest thing to do. And it's not much, because saying, it's like, someone doesn't own much. So it's when you pay 5 dirham, that's $3 exactly. So that's not a lot. So it's not gonna perish that wealth. Is that clear so far?
Yes.
So if someone owns that much money, and a lot of people have the habit, or they think that it has to be Ramadan. It doesn't have to be Ramadan, actually. Whenever you own that money, so if I own that much money, I reach the threshold Today is what the date of in the lunar calendar?
18.
Not,
18?
I'm trying to see
16,
here.
I think 16.
It's the 17th of Jumada.
18 actually.
Rabi' al-Thani, 17. My calendar, Google says it is the 17th. So if today you own it, this is when you pay zakat a year from now. Okay? So that's a very important aspect to it because some people have the habit of giving their zakat in Ramadan. Some of the wisdom of the Tashri'ah actually that it varies. Why is that? So there is always influx of zakat into the market, and there is always influx of money to give to the poor people, as opposed to just 1 month. That would put a burden administratively and fiscally and a lot of management. Whereas if it is done throughout the year, then there is an ease on everyone. Does that make sense?
I mean, that's only going to be an issue if you were previously not eligible for zakah and you suddenly became eligible. But if you are all your years owning that money, then paying it every Ramadan is not a problem.
Yeah, but you have to count from when you started qualifying,
That's
right?
what I'm saying. Most people always are qualified.
So the first time they're qualifying, they have to calculate the hawl, the annual, from that moment, right?
Yeah.
So that's when it counts. So if someone works, they got a job last month, let's say, and their monthly salary is $10,000. Take the taxes and all these deductions, it becomes $7,000. So now they're above the threshold after the expenses, after they pay for all the payments, it's $5,000 now a month. They reach the threshold. So they have to count till Rabi' al-Awwal next year for an entire hawl, lunar calendar, and they hit basically the zakah income. So that's when they start paying zakah. So it's the first paycheck they got basically, whether it's Ramadan or Muharram or Rabi' al-Awwal or Rajab. So
basically every month you have to pay the zakat then. After
Yeah.
1 year.
after 1 year,
Every month you have to pay zakat.
so you see if you qualify, if you own that nisab for an entire year, after 1 year you basically survey and estimate how much money do I have, and now you pay the zakat. Not every month. So the requirement is you have to own it for an entire year, hawl, for an entire annual, a lunar calendar, a lunar year, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So the zakah is paid, at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm saying every month I save $500. It's like a continuous. About 1 year later, I realized that every month I'm saving 500. The month of January I save 500. So next year in January I have to pay zakat on 500.
On everything you have now.
Right.
It doesn't matter because you might have a bonus now, you might have something. So you calculate how much I have at the end of the year and you pay the zakat on it. There is inshallah a practical way of how to pay zakat. We'll show it to you and how to produce your Excel sheets actually to make it easier. That we'll do at the end. So some people say, this is while we're talking about it, they might have stocks or they might be part of companies where they only give them the books once a year, fiscally, and it's the end of the year. So what do we do? Scholars said that you pay actually. It is an exception, but this way it is going beyond the 1 lunar annual. So that makes it based on the Gregorian system. So you pay for the lunar calendar plus the 9-10 days difference. So the zakat becomes not 2.5%, becomes how much? 2.577%. Is that clear? So that's for the people who have stocks or something that is, yeah, you have to pay zakat and they cannot produce it based on the lunar calendar. Then you pay that lunar plus the few days that are left in the solar or the Gregorian calendar. Is that clear?
Actually, it is extremely simple if you want to make it simple.
Right.
And it can get very, very complex if you want to make it complex.
That's very true.
Right?
But what we're trying to do that, alhamdulillah, the fiqh has produced all the flexible opinions that would leave no doubt or room for not paying the zakat accurately.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make it very simple, it takes you 1 second to figure out how much you need at a month of your choice. And khalas. Or you want to go into all these details, monthly, annually, 2.77, and you can go far and far and make it as far as complex as you want.
Right.
You can make the decision in 1 second.
يعني alhamdulillah, it is not complicated, it is simple, and this is what we're trying to do. Bismillah ta'ala. Zakat made easy. This series is actually fiqh made easy because usually how much we spend on each hadith. Normally in our halaqas we spend hours on each hadith actually. And the people who attended these halaqas know that. But here we're just trying to go straight to the point. يعني straight shot. طيب, I think this is enough because tomorrow is a different topic, يعني an addition to what. So each يعني hadith will build on the previous step, inshallah, till we have the entire building. وصلى الله على محمد وآله والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Can you speak